This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusanya. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the show. My guest today is a shining example that internal succession can actually work and be done beautifully. He's gone through an incredible journey of an MBO, and I think this is a great conversation to have and shine the spotlight on this topic. I'm talking about none other than Ashton Chritchlow, who is the now managing director, owner, and financial planner at IFC Max. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abraham. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing what we've been up to recently.
So this is your first podcast, is it?
First podcast, yeah. What an honor.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on the show. So, Ashton, give us a background to your journey that you've been on. Take me right back.
Yeah, I'll take you right back to the start because Max has always been quite big on us sort of explaining to clients our story of kind of where we've come from as advisors, rather than sort of, you know, just a guy in a suit who's got some qualifications. So I got brought up in Leicester on a council estate. My mum was 16 when she had me, so pretty interesting childhood. By the time she was 19, she had 3 kids. So that was our family growing up. So we didn't come from money at all, but it was a good childhood. Enjoyed it, but yeah, it wasn't one that was sort of anything to do with sort of stocks and shares or anything that would lead you to think that I'd end up being a financial advisor. So fast forward a few years, I go to university. I was the first person to go to university from my family, which was like anyone in my family, which was quite a big achievement for me. So I did economics at University of West England, so I would say Bristol, but then everyone would assume I'd go to the good university in Bristol, so it was the second one. So that was good fun, and left at literally the worst time that you could graduate with an economics degree, which was May 2008. Banking crisis kicking right off, so no jobs to be had in the financial services sector. So I made a bit of a crazy decision, which was to stay in Bristol for a year. I thought, give it a go. Me and a couple of friends, we decided to get a flat and thought, right, let's make something of Bristol rather than going back to our homes. And met Max. So I met Max in July 2008. This was before we had an office or anything like this. So the way I find my job is absolutely crazy. And I tell people this sometimes and no one believes me, but you know, this is the days before LinkedIn and stuff like this. So my job advert was on Gumtree. So yeah, back then it was me and my friends would sort of scour the job listings, and I found this one on Gumtree. I thought, this one looks good. This is the sort of thing that I reckon I could do. And they were like, that doesn't look real. And so I applied for it, and then Max calls me the day after or something. He said, yep, sounds good. Come for an interview. It's at my house in Clifton. So I said, okay, yeah, fine. Sorted that out. My friend's like, are you sure this is real? This sounds a bit dodgy. You're going for this job from Gumtree around some guy's house. I said, no, it sounds real. So yeah, went to Max's house, which was where he was working from back then. So he didn't have any staff back then. Had my interview, offered me a job right there, like during that interview. Said, yep, that sounds good, but one problem, we've not got an office at the minute and I'm going on holiday, so you can't start until September. So I said, okay, that's fine. Yeah. He said, what are you going to do until September? I thought, well, nothing really. I had literally no money, really. He said, why don't you go on holiday? Because as soon as you start work, that's it. He's like, you're in the real world now. I said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so I was walking back, walked into NatWest, got a graduate loan, borrowed $5,000 or something like that. Text all my mates that I knew, does anyone want to come on holiday with me? No, nobody wants to come on holiday with me. One guy replied, yeah, let's do it. Where do you want to go? I want to go America, something like that. Would be pretty cool. I just turned 21, so I thought, that's good. I can drink over there now. And so, yeah, we went to California. I spent all my money in 2 weeks. Went to Vegas. So that was good fun. Came back, started with my IFC Max 1st September 2008. That was the first day that we had an office as a business. It was just Max and me back then. We were looking after about 30 clients, 10 million AUM, literally hardly anything. And yeah, just sort of went from there. It was such a, the relationship that me and Max had was really good because Max was sort of a typical breadwinner. He was a hunter. He was out there trying to find clients, talking to professional connections. And then I was just behind the scenes, just fixing everything, doing all the reports, all that sort of stuff. Everything that he was rubbish at, I was really good at. So it just worked really, really well. So yeah, we grew the business really nicely. And then, you know, grew over the years. And then in 2019, after I'd been there for 11 years, we had a conversation around shares within the business. So that's something that I'd sort of mentioned. And Max had sort of not slowed down, but sort of stepped back a little bit from the business at that point, I'd say. And so, yeah, we managed to come up with an agreement on some shares, which was obviously just a minority shareholding back then, but it was quite painful in terms of the finances involved. So I had to remortgage and take pretty much all the equity out of our house, which my partner was fine with, but she didn't really understand too much about the finances. She's just sort of always just let me kind of get on with it and trust that I know what I'm doing. I think I do. But Max was always quite keen to sort of, he didn't want to just give shares away. It was, you know, you got to kind of feel a bit of pain, and if you want some skin in the game, I want to make sure our interests are aligned. So that was a big turning point, I think. And at the time, I could just sort of tell that I felt like I'd probably do a better job running the business than Max. So as part of the negotiations, I said, yeah, we can do that, but I want to run IFC Max now, which was an interesting conversation. But just like, as always with Max, he just makes a decision. If it makes sense, he'll do it. And it was literally, yeah, okay, starts tomorrow. So that was it. So I became managing director of IFC Max back in 2019. November 2019, it's an awful time to start because then January, February 2020, COVID happened. So yeah, have to start making some quite big decisions quite quickly into my sort of tenure as managing director. So that was good. And then obviously the business continues to grow. And 2023, we did another sort of small deal in terms of shares, and Jamie got involved in that as well. And then, yeah, the MBO, which happened, which obviously we'll talk about in more detail, that started almost a year ago now. It was January 2025.
Wow.
So there you go.
What an incredible journey.
Yeah.
So when you joined back in 2018...
2008.
So 2008, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
2008. You came in as an admin. Is that the job title?
Yeah.
You know, because you had no qualification. I mean, you had a degree, great,
Yeah.
but, you know, you had no financial service qualification or experience.
No, I mean, I worked at Hargreaves Lansdown when I was at university, just doing a bit of sort of back-end nominee sort of work, but really low-level stuff. And the original plan was to get a job at Hargreaves when I graduated. Obviously, with the banking crisis, they weren't recruiting. So, yeah, I joined with an economics degree, which sounds great, but in reality, it's not that much use in the workplace, really. So, yeah, I just joined as an administrator, T-boy, just doing anything and anything, just whatever needed doing, I did it, which was great. And I think that's such a good way to get into the industry.
Yeah. Not
Not just because that's how I did it, but it does give you that grounding if you just learn everything. And I think when you work for a small business, especially, I mean, IFC Max is just like a micro business. It's so tiny, especially back then, but you literally do everything. There'd be times when I'd be making tea, then I'd be trying to fix the website, then I'd be writing a regular review report or chasing a provider. But all that stuff is all really good because it really does teach you everything about the industry and within the business. So then when we get new recruits coming through now, like we literally had one start on Monday, I'm saying to him, I used to do your job. So I know what it's like doing that job, and you can do that job and you can progress as far as you want. I started doing that job and now I run this business and I've got a majority stake in this business. So I think it's a really powerful sort of message to give to people as well, in that you're not going to come here and just sit and be an administrator forever. You can if you want, that's fine. If you want to progress, there's no top end to this. You can just keep going.
It's incredible. So it took you went through 11 years of learning the business. You became a certified financial planner. You went through all the exams, all the qualifications. And by November 2019, you became a part owner of the business. And at that point, it was what? A minority shareholding, 25%, something like that. Is that?
I wish. No, 5%.
5%. Okay. And
this
sorry.
is Max we're talking about, Abraham. This is a tough guy to break. So it was a small shareholding, but it was important. I started in 2008, but by 2010 I'd done all my level 4 exams, so I was qualified. But I didn't start. And Max was quite keen on this. He didn't want me to start advising until I'd done my certified financial planner qualification. Right. And also, I was so young as well. When I started, I was only 22. And it is hard advising when you're young. I know there are lots of people that do it. So what was I advising when I was 26 or something like that? And even that's still relatively young, I'd say. Yeah. But Max gave me the opportunity to start advising, and that was it. I was off. And I loved it. So, even though... So 11 years, by that point, I'd been advising for, 6 years already? So, that's pretty good.
Incredible stuff. So, and at that point, do you remember what the AUM or the size of the business is? You mentioned it was 10 million when you started, and we can kind of, we can approximate the revenue. I don't know, we can say it's, 100,000 a year then. Yep. Do you remember what it was 11 years when you bought into the business?
So what would it have been back then? Probably about 150 would be about
150 million.
Yep. Wow, on platform.
Right. That's incredible. And at that point, who else was on the team, bro?
So 2019, it would have been Max, it would have been me, Jamie joined in 2013, and Kat and Gethin joined in 2018. Tamsin would have still been around as company secretary. I think that would have been it. Yeah, that was
so
the team.
five people. So 6 people. And you have to get. We'll come back to this. And then you got to 2023. Yeah, 2020. So at 2019. That's when you said to Max, I own 5% share in this company and I'm going to run it.
Yep.
And he must think, what,
Well, Max approached me about the shares because he felt like that was the right thing to do. But I don't think he was expecting me to run it. But I think for Max, that was amazing. He was like, wow, someone wants to run this business. I've not got to do it anymore. This is win-win. Yeah. And it genuinely was as well, because I had the energy to do it, and from my standpoint, I'm remortgaging my house, taking all this money out. This is a lot of money I'm putting into this. I want to make sure this is being run properly, and I want to have some direction of what can happen in the future. So it made perfect sense. Yeah, it probably sounds strange from the outside looking in, but within the business, it just made. I mean, I was probably running it anyway, but just not by title.
Yeah,
I was doing most of the. Like Max was really good with me when it was first starting because it was very easy. It was just all he had to do was manage me. But as we started to get more employees, Max has never really been that interested in the sort of the management style of sitting down and doing appraisals, all that sort of stuff. He wouldn't do that. We'd have our appraisal in the pub or have a breakfast one morning and he'd just talk to me about how things are going. Whereas when you've got more and more people within the team, you've got to do things properly. You've got to sit down and how are you? What are your problems? What are your challenges? What can we help with? All those sort of things. And I was just always much better at doing it than Max because one, I'd actually do it, and I could just, those guys were they're closer to my age than Max as well. They're younger than me, but I feel like they could probably talk to me about more things than they probably would have been with Max as well. So it did made a lot of sense.
And I mean, we have to give, just huge respect and accolade to Max and dare I say, his generation of financial planners, because they are really the first founding financial planners who founded firms, who wanted to do proper financial planning. And I know Max very well, and I know that around that 2019 time, he went off and did other things, with ESG investing, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And I remember this because in 2020, a Science of Retirement conference used to be that I hosted, and I was saying to the audience, we had 300 advisors in the room. March 2020 was the last conference that we did before COVID became a thing. And I was saying to the audience, this was going to be the last one, Science of Retirement conference. And Max was in the audience, and he rang me afterwards and said to me, "Oh, Abraham, you can't just stop the conference that way. You can't end it." So he's always been, from just a guy looking at him from the outside, a go-getter, driven type of person. Yep. And so I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm surprised that he just handed the firm over to you to run in that way. But also, I know he's a hard-nosed negotiator.
He is. He's both of those things.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that Max is really, really good at is stepping back, seeing the big picture of sort of like, what's the point in doing this? What does that lead into? That kind of thing. And he's also really good at delegating. So he's got no interest in, getting in the weeds of a report or anything. What's the point? His hourly rate is too much for that. Just hire me to do it. Back in 2008, and he used to say this to me as well, like when he hired me, we were losing money because we didn't have enough money really to hire. I wasn't getting paid much anyway, but he could see that the reason why he needed someone like me was that would free him up to go and do the high value stuff, go and find these clients. And that's exactly what he did. So he had that, and he's always said, always think with the end in mind. And, it kind of links back to what we've done with this MBO and things like that. This is the way that Max's brain works. He has got that sort of foresight, and he's very, very good. He's very good at sort of fixing problems. So you go to him, this is not quite right. How do you think we should do this? Do it like this. And he's really good at that sort of stuff. But yeah, and he also is hard-nosed as well. So had many conversations over the years on different things, which is always good fun.
Yeah. So then in 2023, you got to the point where you bought another chunk in the business and James got involved. Yep. Talk to me about that.
So that was interesting. So James started in 2013, and Max had said to him, I'll kind of do the same of what I did with Ashton, in that we'll get to 10 years and then we'll review what's going on. So we're not going to get to 10 years, I'm just going to give you some shares, but let's see where you're at in terms of your role within the business. And if we feel that that's your role within the business is invaluable, then we can have a discussion. So Max basically did the same deal with Jamie that he did with me, but at the same time, we also put another plan together, which was slightly separate to that, of how we're going to hand over more shares over the years. And the interesting conversation we had back then was, obviously I'd been running the business for 4 years at this point, and Max had stepped back a lot more than what he had. Is it fair that Jamie and I and the team were pushing this company on, growing this business, but for every year that goes by, this business gets more and more expensive.
It becomes, you help build a business that you can't afford to buy.
Exactly. And with all the issues with lending and what it's like trying to finance purchases in our industry, it just doesn't make sense for us. So it was a bit of a crossroads conversation. But we figured it out, and we came up to a solution that we were all happy with. But it was very much a sort of a short-term solution until we eventually kind of figured it all out properly, I'd say.
Give me the framework for that solution. What does it look like? Is it a case of saying you would have a right to buy, X% of this business, but at today's valuation?
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we worked with, which was fine. But obviously kind of looking back at my situation again, I'd remortgaged our house personally. And again, going back to my family, that's not fair on us because we can't move house anymore because our equity's all been taken away. So then fast forward to 2023 or any point in the future, what are we going to do? Keep doing that? There's not an endless amount of equity in my property that I can just keep buying more. And every time we do it, it's going to be more expensive. So we had to figure out a different way of doing it, basically, because the previous way, it was fine to sort of get you going. But if you want to really make some bigger strides into the kind of the equity part, it just wasn't going to work.
And what was that solution? Is this some sort of founders, there's a phrase I'm looking for, founders financing, where you agree the valuation and then you have to pay max, back from the profit at some sort of interest rate? Is that?
In a roundabout way, yeah.
Okay.
I can't go into too much detail on that side of things, but yeah, pretty much like that, yeah.
Okay, understood. And by the way, you have an incredibly patient partner who allowed you to.
Yeah, I know. She'll probably listen to this back as well, so I have to be a little bit careful about what I say. But yeah, she is. And now she just trusts me because she knows she's not very financially minded, whereas I obviously am. But she just knows that everything I'm doing is for all of us and our family and stuff. I'm not doing this to, just better myself and make loads of money myself or anything like that. It's all just to help our family in the future, which is why I'm doing it, really.
So fast forward then, 2025. This is when, the ultimate big transaction happened. Give us a picture of the business at that point. Just, I like the high level AUM, who's in the business or number of people in the business. And then let's talk about the conversations that took place.
Yep. So we're looking back pretty much 1 year ago. It's the same people that were there previously. We've also got Gregor, an administrator, Kathy, power planner, and another advisor, Richard, who's self-employed, and he joined us as part of his retirement plan. We would have been probably around 300 million AUM and approximately 350 clients or like family units. So husband and wife would be one client in my brain. So yeah, it was a well-positioned business and obviously a very attractive one for us to try and own more of.
Yeah. So then, interestingly, you took 11 years to go from 10 million to 150 million. Then it takes you basically 5 years to double from there.
Yeah.
And so Max must be sitting there thinking, I made the best decision of, letting Ashton run this business and take the reign. And in that period, of course, the value of the business, the equity value to him is doubled in a shorter period of time. An incredible investment in a person that he took a risk on, or in a team of people that he took risk on some 19 years ago.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not going to claim it was all me that did that at all. It was very much a team effort. We got some really good guys there advising now. So across the, I don't really count Max as an advisor anymore because he's not advising, but there's 4 of us that are advising, and Kat and Geffen have been advising since 21 or something like that. So everyone's pulling their weight, and yeah, it's moving in a really good direction.
So then this transaction in 23, talk to me about that. You call it a management buyout, which, what does that look like?
So shall I talk you through sort of the process of what we were?
Yes, please.
So it was back at the end of January last year. I remember exactly where I was. So I used to meet Max for a lap of the docks in Bristol at 7:30 in the morning. And I'd not seen him for a while because he'd been over in Asia, and he was back. And we've probably exchanged pleasantries for 2 or 3 minutes. Then Max was sort of straight to the point, as he often is when something's on his brain. I can kind of tell because that's all he wants to talk about. So he said, "Do you still need me?" I was kind of thinking, what's the right answer to this question? Is this a test? So I thought, I'll be honest. So I said, no, not really. And he said, no, I didn't think you did. I said, what do you mean in terms of sort of the business? He said, yeah. No, I said, no, not really. I said, we're running it fine. He still had a handful of clients, 20, 25 clients that he was still looking after himself. And he was 60 last year. And I think it was just quite a big year for him. And I think in his mind, it was just sort of a good time to try and sort of tie up some loose ends. So he said, okay, well, let's try and sort something out with the equity. And he was really, really fair about the whole thing and very open. So much so that he even took Jamie and I along to see his solicitor with him twice through this whole transaction. And it was no sort of like, oh, I'm going to go and speak to my solicitor, that kind of thing. So yeah, next day, and again, like this is very much like Max's, what he's like. Once he's got something on his mind, he'll figure it out pretty quickly. So next day in the office, sat in the boardroom, he loves drawing pictures and stuff, so sketched out on the whiteboard, this is roughly what I want to do. If we can do it like this works for me. So we had a few like, okay, what about this? What about that kind of stuff? And but on the whole, it sounded pretty good of what he was suggesting. And so we left it at that. Next day, he'd have randomly bumped into this corporate lawyer who he'd not seen for years. He'd met him down the gym. He said, right, bumped into Richard. We're going to go and have a meeting with him next week or whatever. I've booked us in. And that's the solicitor that he used. And that was it. From there on, we just kind of carried on. So in typical Max fashion, he just delegated the whole project to the two of us. He said, this is roughly what I want. Over to you boys. See what you can do. Sort of like, we needed to find out a valuation, finance options, and can we even do this? All that sort of stuff. So yeah, Jamie and I were just doing some research. And obviously there's so much stuff out there, but really, you probably only do this once. So it's really hard to actually know where to go. So I went to Gunnar & Co. because they're in Bristol. I'd listened to a lot of stuff that Louise had done, and I really liked what they were kind of saying.
She was on a podcast a few times.
Yeah, I listened to that one, and I've been to some events that she'd done as well. So I asked them if they could put together an independent valuation of our business for us. So they took that on as sort of like a little project, and kind of had like a deep dive through our business, what assets, client profiles, all that sort of stuff, and then put together a report for us, which gave us some different metrics around, if we were to value it on an AUM basis, on a multiple of revenue basis, on an EBITDA basis, these are the sort of bands of what it could be worth. So that was really, really good and really a good thing to have done. But we still obviously had quite a loose valuation of the business. So then it was kind of down to negotiation. So what we thought we'd do is put a PowerPoint presentation together for Max or like that. So put a PowerPoint presentation together. Obviously, we wanted to go at the low end of the valuation. We knew that Max wanted to go at the high end of the valuation. So we obviously had to kind of meet somewhere in the middle. And so we put this PowerPoint presentation together. And Max was back in Asia at this point, so we had to do it on Zoom. And so Jamie asked me to put this video because it was so funny. We did this PowerPoint presentation. At the last slide, I said, let's try and get like a AI-generated picture of Max sitting on the beach, retired, playing golf, because he just started playing golf. So like, the reason it was really funny is because the prompts that we were using to put into ChatGPT to try and get this, it was like, retired bald guy on the beach with golf clubs. And then it was like, make him younger, make him less bold. It's like all these funny prompts that we were putting in to try and make it something that Max might actually enjoy. And so yeah, we put our PowerPoint presentation, showed it to Max. We had one at the end, so this is our offer in terms of the valuation of the business and the interest rate that we were going to pay. And he was like, "Yep, sounds good, boys. Let's go from there then." And that was it. There was no negotiations. He was happy. And then it was obviously just down to sort of accountants, solicitors, takes ages. Had some good experience, some bad experience, learnt a few lessons from that. Getting it through HMRC, that was fine. FCA was really good, really quick. So that's one of the things that they have to turn around actually quite quickly, because obviously you're going over that significant control threshold. But yeah, we got it back in like a week, which is unbelievable, really. And But then it's quite funny because you go through all this, and this is in July now. It had been going on for ages. And in my head, it was sort of like, we're going to get to this point where it's sort of like, it's all done and we're going to get around this table and everyone's going to have these like nice pens and sign the contract and stuff. And there was none of that. It was all just done on like an Adobe Sign type thing, tick this box and it's done. So it was a little bit weird at the end. But yeah, we got it all done. And we took Max out for a nice lunch. So yeah, he appreciated that. And it was honestly, it was really, really kind of done nicely. There was a couple of sort of things that were a little bit tense at times, as you'd naturally, as there would be. But on the whole, it was a good process.
What would you put that down? I have seen or heard of first person account of so many failed successions in this business, where a young guy or girl is, open and expecting to buy the business or own the business, and he ended up not working out. They sell to a consolidator or whatever. They couldn't make the financing arrangement. What would you put the success down to?
I think it's probably down to Max, to be honest. I'd love to say it was all me, but it's not. And I think the owner needs to be driving this. One, in terms of they need to be open-minded to do it in the first place. But they also need to build that team. And if they don't build the team, they've got no chance. They can't do an MBO. There's no internal transaction that can be done. And that takes time. You can't just get to your mid-60s and think, I'm going to bring someone in and they'll just run the business for me. I think it's fairy tale stuff. This, Max hired me in 2008.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago. And he's put all his faith in us. So it comes back to Max again. Doing an MBO is way riskier for Max than just selling out to a consolidator. That would have been the easy route for him. He could have just sold it. He probably would have got more money and he'd have been off. But that's not what he wanted to do. He always said to us, one day you boys will own this business. There's one thing saying that, and there's one thing doing it. He could have strung us along for years and thought, oh yeah, they think they're going to get it. I'm going to sell it to a bigger entity eventually. But he didn't. He stuck to his word, which is good. And he was fair. And I think one of the interesting things that he did say, and this was back in January again, I can't remember the exact words, but it was along the lines of, the balance of sort of the shares doesn't represent the balance of the workload, if that makes sense, in that Jamie and I were the ones that were pushing the company on. I was the managing director. I was doing a lot of stuff within the business, yet Max still owned most of the shares. And that's very common, as you'll see all the time. But it's just, how do you shift that around? That's the big, big problem that so many firms have. But I think unless you've got an owner who's got the foresight to sort of think about that. Again, like Max would always say things like, think about the end at the start, something along those lines, but also
beginning with the end.
And also he used to always say, my job is to make myself redundant. And it's so true. And that's what he's effectively done. That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's powerful, because that was what came to my mind, that he made himself redundant, or there's a word I'm looking for, dispensable. Probably around about 2019, he began that process.
Yep.
And then, I know I'm going to use the word, I don't mean it to derogatory, but he buggered off, to Asia just after COVID or something like that. And so he did that deliberate thing, which is the opposite of what we see so in the business, which is, obviously this business of financial advice is enjoyable, and founders or G1 advisors get a lot of joy in it, but they just get in the weeds of it. They make themselves so indispensable, so inseparable from the business, such that you can't build enterprise value that way, and frankly, it makes succession a lot harder.
It does, absolutely, and that's not what Max has managed to do. Is pretty amazing. And I said this to him when we had that lunch with him afterwards. He's not one for sort of emotional speeches or anything, but I did say that to him. I said, what you've managed to do here is really amazing. You should genuinely be really proud of it, because not only has he started a business and created it and grown it and made it a success, he's managed to not fully exit, but partially exit in a way that IFC Max lives on after Max is no longer really working, which is like, how many people actually do that? Not many, not just in our industry, in any industry.
That's incredible. And but I know you said you don't want to give credit to yourself, but you have to give credit to yourself for learning the ropes right from the ground up.
Yep.
Having the patience, the tenacity to keep going. What would you say to somebody sitting in your seat? Let's go back to 2019. Somebody before 2019 who says, "Look, I am the heir apparent in this business. I want the succession to work. What should she be doing?" That advisor who might be in your shoe. How should they be thinking?
I think they should be having conversations with the owners as early as you can, even if it's not, I want shares right now. Is that something that could be an option in the future? Because if they flat out say no, then it's kind of like, well, what am I doing here? I could go somewhere else. But also, I think you've got to be realistic as well. And I think sometimes people expect a lot when sometimes there may be, it's not realistic, or I don't know what the right word would be. But I also think there's a big difference between sort of an employee, a manager, and an owner. And being an employee is fine. For a lot of people, it works. Being an owner and a shareholder is a lot harder. There's a lot more challenges that come with it. And I think that's why you're the shareholder and not just an employee. So I think just because you're a good employee doesn't mean that you should end up owning the business. But if you can show that you're going to be more than just an employee, you're willing to step up to be a director, a managing director, or something of significance within the business, then you're almost making yourself indispensable, and the owners have got no choice really, because that's a good skill set to have. And I didn't need to spell it out like that to Max, but he knew that he had that here already with me and with Jamie as well, in that if he didn't sort something out, he knew what the alternative would be. He knew that we could leave if we wanted to, and that would just be, everyone loses in that situation. It's not good. So he knew that he needed to figure something out that worked for all of us, because if he did, then everybody wins. And when you get into that position, then it just becomes a no-brainer, doesn't it? And that's what makes it really easy. So that's why, like what we've just done recently, was a really smooth, seamless transition, really.
Were there times that you think this isn't going to work?
What, with the recent MBO, or just through working at IFC Max?
Well, say since 2019, were there times when you think, I own 5%, but it's never going to sell majority
the only
stake?
time, it was that 2023 conversation that we had, because that's when the sort of penny had dropped, in that point around, I'm actually giving a lot to this business here and I own 5% of it. Is that fair? And not me on my own again, but we're doing a lot of work to build the value of this for who. Is that fair? And that's why we had that conversation with Max back then. If that hadn't worked out as it did, that could have been a problem, but it wasn't. And again, Max isn't stupid. He knows how these things work. So he came up with a solution pretty quickly that worked for all of us. So that's probably the only time, I'd say.
A couple of things that strikes me from this conversation was, the bit I mentioned earlier, which is making yourself indispensable, which means learning the business, putting yourself there. You talked about the owner versus employee mindset, but also solidifying that. I said to myself, if I ever had a chance to speak to a generation of young upcoming financial planners, it would be that, which is get yourself on the cap table, which is own 5%, a small stake in the business. But of course, as you said, that comes with responsibilities and sacrifice. You might have, I don't know, have to sacrifice between, high salary and all that. You took a mortgage on your house twice. Maybe marry and find an understanding spouse.
Yeah, that's a secret.
Yeah, good luck with that. No, joke. But seriously, so what else? What else would you add to the list of the things that a successor have to do or think about?
I think I don't know if enough people think about the difference between just turning up for work every day as an employee and doing your job versus what goes into running a business and making sure everything works, because there's just so much that goes into it, and not everyone can do that. I think you can have really good advisors who are really on top of their game, but they'd be rubbish at managing people. I was going to say Max is an example of that, but it's a bit harsh. But like, Max is not a good manager, and he'd openly say that, but he's a bloody good advisor. He's so good. But it's a completely different skill set. So if you can do both of those, I'm quite lucky that I can. Management's so hard because no one teaches you. I remember when on a course back in January 2020, I remember, because COVID was just kicking off. I was in Manchester. This was a management course at the university, 5-day thing. It was useless. I didn't hardly learn anything. But that was meant to teach you how to be a manager. No one can teach you how to be a manager. You just got to learn. It's one of those things that you kind of either you can do it or you can't. And that's what these youngsters, I'd still hope that I'd still be classed in that same category. But the younger ones, you've got to get your qualifications done, get as qualified as you can be, get your chartered, certified, all that sort of stuff, because that's just the bare minimum. And then once you've done that, you build your client base, you do a good job for your clients. But then it's like, have I got the skill sets to do something else within the business? Or am I just going to be an employee of this business forever? And I think that's what people need to be thinking about, because, like I said, I think they are quite different. And I think it is a completely different skill set, which does it come with age? I don't know. I genuinely think it's one of those things that you've either got inside you or you've not, because you need to be good at communicating, managing people, kind of thinking about things from their side, all those sort of things, not just thinking about yourself. Because going into work every day and doing your job, that's pretty easy. All you got to do is think about yourself. Going into work, doing your normal job and running the business as well, that's quite hard to do. And yeah, I don't think everyone can do that.
So one of the great benefits of internet succession is that Max's legacy lives on.
Yep.
In the in a shape that is recognizable, rather than being at this stage subsumed into a larger or into another entity that you wouldn't recognize it. But there is a lot of consolidation, happening in the wider business of financial advice. What are your thoughts? Why is it important? Why is it an MBO, internet succession, whatever it is you call it? Why is that important? Is this even important for the profession of financial planning? Or
I think it is. I think it's really, really important, and it doesn't really get talked about enough, I don't think. So most conferences you go to, it's quite rare still that you get that sort of topic. So obviously I was at the CISI one in October when it was you and Anthony from Clifton Asset Management. That was brilliant. I thought it was so good.
Oh, thank you.
Because at the start, I was just like, well, I'm so Team Abraham here, because obviously you were kind of going down our line. But I thought he was really, really good. And obviously he was kind of the bad guy. Yeah. But his arguments were really, really good. And the reason I mentioned that was because there isn't a right or wrong way to, there isn't just everyone should do it this way, everyone should do it that. Everyone's different. So the MBO made so much sense for us because we had the infrastructure in place. But for a lot of people, they won't. Like, I was speaking to a guy at a conference a couple of weeks ago. I said, what's your sort of plan? Oh, I'm probably just going to hire someone soon. I think he was in his late 60s. I was kind of thinking, that's going to be really hard to do. But I think the more and more people talk about it, the more people should start thinking about it. And what really needs to be, the young'uns need to be thinking about it, and the older guys need to be thinking about it as well. You can't be getting into your 60s and not have already thought about that, surely. The sooner you can start thinking about this, the more options that are available to you. If you want to build a team and you want your, what's important to the owner? Is it just to earn a load of money and sail off into the sunset? Or do they want their legacy to live on, like what we've done with IFC Max? Do you want IFC Max to carry on? If you do want your business to carry on, you have to build a team. Do it sooner rather than later. Really hard to find good people that are going to do a good job and grow into that space. It's not something you can just magic up. Max was probably quite lucky that he found me, and I was probably quite lucky that I found Max, but it worked, and we made it work over the years. But that won't be the case for everybody. So it could be that selling to a big consolidator is a good option. That would have been the worst thing for me, like personally, because I just lose 17 years of goodwill within our business, and now I'm just a number in a big organization with no shares, and it's like, what a miserable existence for me.
Terrible.
Compared to where I've been, because I've grown into that business. But for some people, that's fine, and that would work really well. But I think that's what that generation needs to be done. And I say the younger ones, they need to be thinking about how are they going to step up, how are they going to leverage the position that they're in to become owners of those businesses. And these conversations need to be had. And I think the industry needs to do more about it. There needs to be more discussion on it. I don't know if it's for the FCA to be looking into, but I know they're looking into certain areas, but given examples of what good looks like and what is possible, because a lot of people don't even know what is possible. A lot of people think that the only option is to sell to a much bigger entity, whereas what we've done, it was quite rare, but I don't see why other people can't do that. But it needs things to be in place for it to happen. You need that open-minded owner to take that risk. But really, if that person's built that team up, it's not that risky really, because they know what they're like. Like for us, we'd been running the business for ages, so it wasn't a huge risk for Max. It was a risk, but not a huge risk.
So you are what, 37, 38?
Nearly, 39.
Yeah. You're a baby.
40 this year. Yeah.
Okay, good. You look good for 30. No, I'm joking.
Thanks. No one said that for years.
You've just gone through, you now are leading owner in a multi-million pound firm. You're entrusted with 300 million plus of hopes and dreams of real people. What's next?
More the same. So, yeah, this is a question I get asked all the time, because obviously we put a note out to our clients around the MBO that we did, and whenever I see clients, what are you going to do differently? It's like, nothing. Why would we do anything differently? I've already been running this business as it is. We just carry on as we are. So we'll carry on growing, and we grow nicely as a firm. We're always looking for sort of opportunities. If other small practices want to sell, they can inquire. We'd be quite interested in that. And yeah, grow the team. We've got a young team we're quite unique, really. When you think, I'm the oldest advisor left, and I'm 40 this year. Jamie's a year younger than me, and then Kat and Gethin are 32 or something like that. So for the core of the team to be that young in our industry is quite interesting, and it's quite exciting as well. So obviously when we put this note out to clients, we're obviously going to say this is a good thing, that what we've done recently, but it genuinely is, because what it does is it secures that long-term independent future of IFC Max. We haven't got to sell to a big organisation. We can carry on doing what we're doing, and that's good for the staff, because they know that's not going to happen. And it also shows that we're not going anywhere. If your advisor's in his late 60s or her late 60s, surely you're thinking, how long are they going to be my advisor for, really? And clients are definitely thinking these things. Whereas with us, we've got that young team. People would hopefully think, okay, these advisors could be my advisors for 20, 25 years. Why not? So, yeah, I think we can. That's a good sort of USP for us as a business. So just keep growing steadily, nothing crazy, and yeah, it's all good.
Did you change the name?
Nope. No chance. Yeah, a few people have said that, but yeah.
IFA Ashton. No,
it doesn't really sound so good. IFA Max is actually a really good name when you think about it, and you explain to people why it's called that. They go, oh, okay, I get it. So yeah, no, we'd never change the name. That would be disrespectful to Max. So yeah, it's going to stay.
Yeah. Okay. And if we were sitting here, I don't know, let's say in 10 years' time, what's changed? What's different? Oh, actually, not changed. Describe the firm to me then.
10 years' time. So I'll be turning 50 that year. So that's exciting. I'm not even looking forward to turning 40. So I think we've always said we've got no ambition to ever become a huge entity with just a lot of staff. We just won't do it. I think in an ideal world, so we've got 4 advisors at the moment, maybe we'd have, say, 6, 7 advisors, but we're looking after really good, high quality clients. All of our advisors are looking after a good, healthy amount, and no one's, working all day, every day. I don't know. I've got no grand ambitions to become Paradigm Norton or something like that. I think it'll be quite hard work, and I'm quite happy sort of with our team that we've got. Let's just grow it steadily. It's a nice place to work. No one's overworked. Everyone enjoys coming into work. So why would you change that? And I think for the managers, the more and more things you build in and the more and more people you build in, it just becomes less enjoyable. And I think it sort of waters down what you've got. I think, I pretty much know all of our clients, even ones that are not my clients. I'd be able to recognise any of them if they're on the street. Once you start getting to that next level, you won't, and you sort of lose that personal touch. I think we've got a really good sort of personal touch with our clients, and I think they really like that. So I'd never want to lose that. So it's just sort of building upon that, and who knows with regulation and AI and stuff like that where it might get to, but I can't see us doing anything too differently. I imagine just the numbers would probably just look bigger, but we're still delivering like a really good high-end personal service for clients.
Ashton Chritchlow, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your journey. Really enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Abraham. It was enjoyable too.
That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.